Hello, everyone, viewers and new subscribers to our podcast. Have you ever wondered about cryptocurrencies and where to start? Well, this is the podcast for you. Before we get into it, full disclaimer, this is not financial advice. This is for educational purposes and for you to get to know what we see exciting small cap companies on the ASX. Without further ado, I have the interim CEO of one of the most exciting companies on the ASX. It's called DigitalX. The ticker is DCC, and it's very much in line with the exciting cryptocurrency space. And I have the absolute pleasure of having interim CEO Demetrios Christou on board. Demetrios, how are you?
Yeah, well, thanks, John. Thanks for having me.
Always pleasure having you on board. So, for those out there, it's the ticker DCC, Digital X. Give us a quick elevator pitch for those that don't know the story.
Well, look, DigitalX, we've been around for a long time. We've actually been listed on the ASX since 2014. And really, at our core, we're a digital asset company with a lot of fund management experience. What we do, which is quite unique, is we've actually been really instrumental in bringing Bitcoin in an institutional, safe way through different vehicles. And what the company is today is we've got three main elements to it, which is we're a treasury company, which is actually giving our investors direct access to Bitcoin via our share price. And we currently hold 500 Bitcoin on our balance sheet. We've got digital assets over $100 million approximately at the moment. And that's a really good way for investors to be able to get exposure to that asset class. The other thing that makes us quite unique is we also run an ETF product, which is another way of accessing Bitcoin in a really simple structure. That is also listed on the ASX as well under the ticker BTXX. So what we do is we actually give two really different ways to get access to Bitcoin, which we believe is the most exciting asset class of our time. And the company itself, that's the channels that we've been working on. And I think what makes us unique is that we do offer both. There are a lot of treasury companies and ETF companies that do one or the other, whereas at DigitalX, we give that dual access. And on the top of that, we also have a nice share sale business on the side that also generates some good cash flow for the business and supports the whole group.
Now, Demetrios, I did pronounce you as the interim CEO. Personally, I think you should go all the way and be just CEO. But I understand being an interim CEO is quite challenging. So, on the back of that, describe to me what's the transition process.
Yeah, so for me, I've been in the company since 2023. I've got a really good understanding of the business, being the GM of finance, understand the numbers of the business, what makes it work, and I've been given the opportunity as interim CEO to step in and really drive our strategy, which is to increase our Bitcoin adoption across our products. I think the main thing that I've brought in the last 6 months is that real focus on achieving our strategy, but it's also just discipline around us having more cost optimization. We've grown some revenues. We recently were named like the highest performing ETF product on the market. But ultimately for me, it just comes down to constantly just achieving results for the company and expanding DigitalX just to achieve its maximum potential.
So, given that, what are your top priorities for DCC?
So with us, we've got, like I mentioned, with the different channels that we've got a really clear strategy, and that is to grow our Bitcoin on our balance sheet. So we've actually just recently announced our 2100 strategy. And what that actually is taking our current holdings of 500 Bitcoin and growing it to 2100 Bitcoin by the end of 2027. What that will do is we're currently top 60 treasury company globally, and this will really push us further up the ranks. But we are number one in Australia, and we want to continue to be number one. The other priority for me is really growing our BTXX product, and that is just growing the assets under management that we currently have, which is circa 60 million, and we want to see that go 100, 200 million plus in the coming months. And like I mentioned with Sell My Shares, we'd like to just grow that business out as well and provide more access to people to sell their shares as well.
So, in this environment, there are so many ETFs out there that are moving towards the crypto space. A lot of money is moving into ETFs. And additionally, I could invest in Bitcoin myself. What's the competitive advantage of DigitalX as a result? Other than I don't know what I'm doing when it comes to investing in crypto. But
Yeah.
outside of that, what's the advantage of using DigitalX?
Yeah, and look, without going into any advice, what the advantage is we, like I mentioned, provide two channels. the way we do it, we're an ASX listed regulated company. So our shares, you can trade on the ASX. You can also trade our ETF. So we're regulated, which is the main thing. The other thing is we also store our Bitcoin in the best institutional grade custody. So what that actually means is if you're an investor in any of those products, you don't have to think about holding your keys. If I lost my passwords, if one of the exchanges that have happened globally get hacked, those things don't need it. They're not really relevant, situations with a company like ours where you've actually got us holding the assets for you in a secure, easy way. We also provide an easy way to trade them because we've got the ASX vehicle. We also have our stock listed on the OTC in the US. So really, it's like, you can go on and trade the shares. Same with the ETF. It's a frictionless environment where you can just go and trade our ETF and buy it. And it's an easy way to get exposure to the asset class without having to do all the things like I mentioned around storing keys and the risk of losing them. But what I think is exciting in this space is the advent of ETFs have really brought institutions and different people to the market. Before it was quite difficult to access crypto unless you really, went in through your own exchanges. ETFs have changed that, and that's really been a big positive shift with institutions moving in. We've got global sovereign wealth funds. We've got the US that have a strategic reserve, and we think that's going to continue to expand. I think the other thing that's really interesting is treasury companies have been a recent thing. We've held Bitcoin on our balance sheet from 2014, but recently the likes of MicroStrategy have really put treasury companies on the map. And this is just companies buying and holding Bitcoin on their balance sheet. And really, that's all about us accumulating Bitcoin over time. And our 2100 strategy aligns with that, which is to keep increasing our Bitcoin per share. And that's what we want to give our investors exposure to as well.
That's really interesting because what you're saying is your exposure to Bitcoin is backed by legitimate Bitcoin. So other ETFs out there are a synthetic instrument that just track the price, while Digital X is actually holding Bitcoin on your behalf.
Yeah, like our ETF is entitles you to Bitcoin. You buy the units, but you're entitled to the Bitcoin that sits underneath it in the ETF structure. On the other side, on the actual treasury side, we directly hold that Bitcoin on our balance sheet. So every share you buy exposes you to the Bitcoin that we own. And what we're actually looking to track, and for investors, is we're tracking a really important metric, which is our Bitcoin per share. And that's something that we're focused on growing over time. So as our Bitcoin grows, we want to make sure that our Bitcoin per share grows, and that's what's giving investors on their headstock more access to more Bitcoin as you purchase as well. So
Now, I know it's not exciting as if that's the right word, but can you explain to me a bit more about the Sell My Shares website? A few retail investors out there would be aware of it, but for the viewers that are not quite aware of what that side of your business does and what's the
yeah,
strategic plan with that?
yeah. So that business, like we acquired a few years ago. What's actually important is that business actually enables people to sell their shares. So if you've been given shares, through a deceased estate or through an employee share plan, and you don't have broker channels set up, it's as easy as going on the website and working with our team, and we'll actually facilitate that share sale for you.
There are a lot of people that fall into that category. You happen to have shares, you don't know where to locate, and you just use Sell My Shares, as opposed to calling a pesky broker like me to do it for you. You can
Well,
Sell My Shares.
yeah. Well, it's a nice simple solution, and it doesn't need you to have all those channels that you've built up. And I think for us, it's all about just providing like ease of access. And I think as a company in general, the underlying thing is ease of access to Bitcoin through our treasury, our ETF. But with the Sell My Shares, it's also easy to be able to go and sell your shares in a really easy way. And the main thing for us is that we're regulated. We want to be able to give that trust and that transparency to the businesses that we own. And I think it's a really good combination of businesses because they all support each other. We're not competing with the brokers of the world, with the
Yeah.
sophisticated. We want simplicity, and I think that's a really important thing. That you got shares, well, come to us, we'll sell them. You want Bitcoin, come to us, and you got two ways of buying it.
Yeah.
Go to the ETF, and it's super clear. If you buy the headstock, well, it's a slightly different proposition, but we're thinking that we're growing both channels. They're both unique. And I just think for us, it's just an education piece around telling people more the story. And, I think having opportunities like this are important for us to sort of push that message.
So, Demetrius, as you and I know, investors love growth. So, what's on the roadmap to drive this growth for DigitalX shareholders?
So, for us, we've got a really simple, that 2100 strategy for us is our near term focus on growing the treasury out. We'll do that through using a number of different instruments on the market, but that's taking our Bitcoin from 500 to 2100. So, we're going to 4x that holding. We also believe that Bitcoin as an asset class is really unique. It's a standalone asset. So, we believe in the future that's also going to have the benefit of more institutions adopting it, and given that it's quite a scarce asset and we consider it the digital gold of our time, that will also appreciate with time as well. From a growth perspective, growing the treasury is the real key focus. The other one is growing our ETF, and that's just getting more assets under management. And for us, that's effectively tapping into larger and larger capital pools. In Australia, we have a superannuation industry that hasn't quite had access to that market, which is on the verge of doing that in the coming periods. We've been working with a large number of institutions and some larger, wealth providers. And what we do believe is there's just going to be a larger group of people accessing these products. They're going to want to give more exposure to their customers, their fund holders, to Bitcoin. And we believe DigitalX enables that to happen in a really seamless way. So they're really the two key focus areas for us, is growing that product out and really growing our balance sheet, all the while, doing it in a really disciplined, scalable way.
So there it is, ladies and gentlemen. If you want exposure to Bitcoin in a secured fashion with professionals who know how to manage it, have a consider of looking at DigitalX. The ticker's DCC. Demetrios, it's always a pleasure to speak to a fellow Greek. Thanks for coming on board, and good luck. And I really think you should be CEO full stop.
No, thank you, John. I really appreciate your time today, and giving me opportunity to just explain a little bit about what we do. So thank you.
My pleasure, mate. Chat to you soon.